is becoming more and more on the forefront, and also on their side to develop innovative way and to test innovative way, not only to be a recipient, but to be also to pilots possible new solution. I was invited to give you a bit the scale of the challenge, what it looks like, and to give you a general policy update of what is coming very quickly. And I will do that, please. I mean, many of these elements are probably not completely new to you, but it's important to recall a bit the overall start, the policy context. You know that with the new Commission von der Leyen, the European Commission have launched the European Green Deal. And this has set higher ambition, have enshrined in the law the need to become climate neutral by 2050, and has set a stronger ambition across the different area of the clean energy transition that led to the presentation of a comprehensive legislative package with stronger obligation on member state or directly on economic undertaking on accelerating on the transition toward clean energy, and in general in line with the climate neutrality objective. At the basis of this reflection is the climate target plan. The climate target plan was an impact assessment exploring the different sector and what can be both the potential in terms of a reduction of greenhouse gas emission and what can be done. As you can see, I mean, in the slide, there was a clear focus on buildings, both in residential and tertiary sector, as one of the areas that has, to a certain extent, and also transport. I mean, as you know, it's key. As one of the areas where there is the stronger potential and need to act fast. In order to reinforce this message, the Commission have put forward slightly after the climate target plan and the adoption of the European climate loan. I underline this aspect because to say that the European climate law is already adopted by different of other legislative texts that I will present you later in the next slides. So is already endorsed by the member state, is already a law of the European Union, and in this law we have set the binding objective of reducing by 55% greenhouse gas emission by 2030. So I was saying that to underline the key role of buildings and building renovation, the Commission have come forward as well with the renovation wave communication, which has put the ambitious objective of doubling the renovation rate by 2030. Welcome to all that are connecting also now. Just to recap, I'm doing a short presentation from DG Energy side on the recent policy development and on the new target at 2030 that will be are being set at the European level, and on which the different actors, including local and regional authorities, are called to act, and also in terms of mobilization of private investment. Key directive, one of the key directives being revised is the Energy Efficiency Directive. Here we have increased the target initially to 9%, compared to the baseline of the 2020 baseline, the target to reduce primary and final energy consumption. But this has been also improved by 13%, because, as I will also explain later, what was not foreseen in the moment we launched the European Green Deal and the Fit for 55 package was Russian aggression to Ukraine and the consequent energy crisis, that clearly pointed on the need for the European Union to phase out the fossil fuel dependence from import of Russian fossil fuels, in particular natural gas. So this has been an additional increase in the target. Now is that the Commission has proposed 30%. This is being negotiated really in these days, in the sense that the negotiations are well advanced. The interinstitutional negotiation between the Commission, the European Parliament, and the Council with the member states are well advanced, and in this early March, we expect the final agreement to be reached. Of course, what you see in the slides is still the Commission proposal, because and of course the different threshold can vary upward or downward, because we have the Parliament who was more ambitious than the Commission, and the member state who are propose a less ambitious target. but to say that the general infrastructure would pretty much look like this. Then next to the general headline target, we have an annual national energy saving obligation, where the member states are asked to ensure 1.5% of reduction in energy consumption yearly. And here we have excluded in certain category, because of course there are a number of derogation, the reduction coming from direct, not from indirect, but from direct fossil fuel combustion. Then there was this is very important, I think, for cities in particular, and for cities that are directly involved in or directly own or run district heating and cooling network. There was an update of the definition of efficient district heating, with specific timeline for to phase in a larger share of renewable based heating and waste it from both cogeneration or other kind of possibility. Finally, also with the obligation on the public sector, on the exemplary role of public sector, have been proposed to be strengthened with an annual reduction, an obligation to produce an annual reduction of 1.7% of consumption in the public sector, and in particular to an annual renovation rate of 3% of the public building over 250 square meter. Other aspect in the revision of the directive regarded the introduction of the energy efficiency first principle and measure to alleviate energy poverty. Specifically, I wanted also to focus on the provision on financing, on energy efficiency financing. It is the directive clearly call member state and the European Union and market actors to maximize the multiple stream of financing and to focus on the combination of grant, financial instruments, and technical assistance. There is a need to increase the cost effectiveness of the public budget support, to use more systematically financial instrument and rely less on subsidies. This need come beside that general need to of course use on the best way possible the public resources, but also to come from the scale of the challenge and the scale of the investment need. What is also important here is that we have introduced some clear reference, and this has been provisionally agreed already, for energy efficiency lending products for financial institution to always offer, or for member states to facilitate the offer by financial institution of products, dedicated financial product dedicated to energy efficiency and in general the clean energy transition, that should always be offered assessing the best interest of the consumer. There will be a number of documents coming for implementation, so following the adoption of the Energy Efficiency Directive, including the guidance to the Article 28 on financing, and later on a guidance to with exploring the different innovative scheme that can be developed to unlock private investment. This will come later in 2020-2024, and I probably address many of the elements you might be interested on. Also here, I wanted us to zoom in on the exemplary role of the public sector, but already mentioned it. This is one of the key articles of the ED, because it set clear obligation for the public sector. The public sector intended as there is different definition coming from the Parliament, the Commission, and the member states. So the real, let's say, scope that it will entail, it's still to be defined. But what is clear is that initially this article was addressed only to the central government building and the central government asset, but this has been enlarged to also regional and local publicly owned assets. And also the question being discussed is to what extent infrastructure used for public needs but owned by private are within the scope or not. So this is let's say the pending negotiation. So following the ED, also we revised the Renewable Energy Directive. Here there was as well an increase on the target, and with sectoral increase in key sector. The target was initially brought by, and here the reference is to the general production of renewable energy to 40% of the total share, increased to 45% by 2030 by the REPowerEU amendment, with both binding or indicative target for key sector, including heating and cooling, where there is actually the Commission has proposed to have a mandatory target to increase the renewable shares in heating and cooling for heating and cooling. What is also very important is that how the different measures with regard to renewable energy community were strengthened to increase like this type of instrument that is quite relevant at local level, both to increase the renewable energy production at national level overall and to give access to local, affordable and clean energy for the citizen. In addition, there is a very important element here, a bit broader, let's say, that the action that we take more at a small scale local level, but still relevant, because the aspect related to permitting and the need to accelerate the permitting for the renewable energy production, which often in some cases take more than 5 years. So it's clearly it's not aligned with the need to step up efforts also, both from the European Green Deal and REPowerEU, and the introduction of the principle of overriding public interest for the renewable energy production, and the definition of go-to areas where it will be easier to identify where to deploy additional renewable capacity. Then the third, let's say, I would say there is, I didn't say it in the beginning, but the third key clean energy directive at the EU level is the Energy Performance of Building Directive. This is related specifically to buildings, residential, non-residential, public and private one. And here the key provision are the introduction of a minimum energy performance standards. Minimum energy performance standard, I will speak about it in a moment on a separate slide, are standards for building to achieve a minimum performance that will kick in a different timeline with a different set of obligation or possible derogation. The discussion at the EU level on this is very much heated, because the EPBD, by difference to the Renewable Energy Directive and the Energy Efficiency Directive, was proposed by the Commission in December 2021. So let's say that the discussion are in general 6 months, happening 6 months later from the order. So we are not at the stage of the trilogue and finalization of the negotiation here. The other important element is that the Commission proposed an harmonization on the energy performance certificates. You know very well that each member state have its own national system. We are not proposing to have a European system, but to introduce common methodology in order for the different energy performance certificates to be comparable across the EU. This will also help investors, financial institutions to program their financing plan, and they're at a cross-border level in order to have some sort of comparability, and should support also the development of sustainable finance, allowing, for instance, this aspect was recalled in a recent opinion from the European Central Bank, the need to strengthen the framework for the energy performance certificates, because also the regulatory authority, when assessing if a product corresponds to sustainability criteria or can access a green label, for instance, they need to have a more certain framework regarding energy performance certificate, in particular because they relate to the real estate sector, for which that is quite relevant for the financial world. Then we introduce, of course, the EPBD introduced also a long-term perspective regarding what our building stock should look like in 2050. And in this regard, that the new standard of zero-emission buildings, which will become the new standard for the construction of new building. The current standard is the nearly zero-energy building, which then is being updated. In this framework, of course, it's not only important to renovate and reduce energy consumption, but also to look at the waste from the construction site and to integrate a consideration in terms of whole life cycle of our building stock. I mentioned the energy performance certificate database, and also what is key also for the let's say cross policy view on our strategy to meet our climate objective is the interlinkage with the sustainable mobility and the need to deploy a certain provision that will ensure the deployment both of solar both of e-mobility recharging infrastructure, but also of solar energy in buildings, depending on the basis of certain conditions. So what we were speaking with regard to minimum energy performance standard, the idea is to introduce a union standard to phase out worst performing buildings. So it will be a standard that will start from the lowest classes and then a different timeline come up to E and D classes. These are the Commission has proposed a certain timeline. The Parliament have proposed a different one, and also the Council have proposed actually a stronger focus on non-residential building, but let's say more derogation for residential building. This has been heavily discussed between and negotiated, but what it seems, because some member states already have in place this sort of standard, what is probably certain that in some form, some mandatory obligation for building to achieve a certain level by a certain level of energy performance classes by a certain date will come in the general European framework. In addition, okay, I presented a bit, let's say, the legislative revision coming out of the European Green Deal, but what is also very important is what was developed as part of REPowerEU. The REPowerEU, as said, is the plan to phase out with an impact assessment of the current consumption at EU level of Russian fossil fuel and how to phase them out. It relies on three key pillars: the acceleration of the clean energy transition, the need to reduce demand and increase energy efficiency, and of course the need to diversify energy sources. As said, this has come with an increasing target, with a legislative amendment to the proposal increasing further the target for energy saving, for energy efficiency and renewable energy, and also complemented by dedicated communication. I will not delve deep on REPowerEU and additional resources, but this will be part of the slides. Disregard generally the reply from the Commission, from the European Union side, to the energy supply and high energy prices crisis. But what I wanted to focus here is really on the financing aspect, which I think it's key for this for your webinar today. The volume of investment need is quite significant. I mean, what we can assess is that looking at additional investment need only for energy efficiency target, we are speaking about 165 billion of additional investment per year. When we look at the general climate target plan to achieve the total investment, this is around 3,000 billion per year to achieve the 2030 target put forward. And also when we regard that REPowerEU, additional investment around 300 billion are needed in order to phase out our dependence compared to what initially assessed. These give us a picture when we look at the budget available at the union level and the member state level, which is significant, have been increased, of course, to deliver on the climate goal, have been increased to actually 625 billion only at the EU level, compared to less than 200 in the previous financing framework, but these still represent in total between 10 and 20% maximum of the total investment need. So this means that there is a need to leverage the other 80% with the use of innovative financing, with the use of guarantee, with the use of a number of instruments that can be able to attract the financing from the private side. I would like also leave you here in the slide that will be shared also the different funding instruments at the EU level, because it's also important to have in mind what are, let's say, insured management with member state and can finance direct investment like the Recovery and Resilience Facility or the Cohesion Policy Fund, and what are instead the instrument focused more on assisting authorities in developing their own bankable investments, such the Elena Facility or InvestEU. Finally, just a focus, of course, as said, we will hear more about this later today, but public fund has to be used as a catalyst for private investment. The way to do it are, and there is a number of ways to do it. There is not a silver bullet on what are the best schemes to attract private investment. It depends by the objective, it depends by the current situation, by the landscape. But from the exploring of new innovative financing based on tax on bill or energy performance contracting, to the combination of grants for technical assistance and the favorable loans as a financial instrument, as well as with the support generally to the development of green products by the financial institution, which are very much interested into basically greening their portfolio of assets, and are often looking for suitable investment that comply with the current criteria in use. And with that, I close. I've been a bit too more long than anticipated, but I'm here, and I'm happy to take some questions. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Pierluca. Can you stay with us a few more minutes, because I know you have to jump over to another meeting.
I can stay another some more minutes. Yes.
Perfect. So if there are any questions to Pierluca about the policy context and the scale of the challenge, please feel free to raise your hand and switch on your mic, or you can write your questions in the chat. No questions? It's a very unique opportunity.
I think I was or scaring or comprehensive.
Yeah, I think you included a lot of information that everyone will digest after the meeting. Yeah. So if there are no questions, I would maybe trigger the discussion by asking you one question, Pierluca. When you say that the public funding is obviously limited given the scale of the challenge, and it will be directed mostly towards loans and technical assistance, etc. In case of local and regional authorities who do not have experience with private financing, with those innovative financing instruments, what could they be looking at in terms of the Commission support? For example, the technical assistance programs, but just in case they feel a little bit lost, where they will be able to get some support.
Yeah. So thank you for the question, and thank you for raising it, because I somehow skipped the part on the financing landscape. So there is two key programs when we speak about clean energy transition that assist directly local authorities for the development of their own investment. One is the ELENA facility, which we manage, which the EIB, the European Investment Bank, manage on our behalf, and is demand basis. And the acronym ELENA is European Local Energy Assistance Facility. So it was designed specifically to assist the local and regional authorities in designing their investment, and it has been used both in designing dedicated investment, the bankable project, but also in setting up, for instance, one-stop shop or a dedicated financing vehicle, for instance, to renovate or the district heating network on a given regions, or, for instance, private building as well. So that is the first one I would suggest to have a look at. Is demand-based. We can facilitate contact, but the EIB is always you can find the different address, and the EIB is often open. And the good aspect here is also that, of course, it is used by the European Investment Bank to develop a project that they can then finance with their direct lending. The other instrument is the Live Clean Energy Transition that I would recommend here, but there is also other as well. But it's the Live Clean Energy Transition sub-program. The Live Clean Energy Transition sub-program is the new sub-program that we launched in 2021 that is specifically addressed to the deployment to energy efficiency uptake and the uptake of on-site small-scale renewables. Here we have both an area supporting project development assistance, but also dedicated support to deploy innovative financing scheme at local level. We ask here is instead of being demand-based, is based on calls and application, and we have a very good track of supporting local authorities, both in designing their financing scheme and their investment in cooperation, for instance, with utilities, or in cooperation with, for instance, a finance consultancy. the next call will be open in mid-May, in the 11th of May to be precise, 2023. And you can I still not give you many information, but it will have 13 different topics. It will address one-stop shop, district heating, innovative financing, heat pump deployment, because now is especially with regard to phase out natural gas for heating purpose, we are very much looking into a stronger uptake of heat pumps, and a number of other topics. So I told you, look forward to it, to what will be published. On top of this, is mainly managed, I have to say, by the central government, but there is also the technical support instrument run by the DG Reform, which is adapted to develop to basically provide technical assistance support to member state and possibly also regional authorities to develop their own programs, let's say. So this is a bit an overview of what it is available to set up a dedicated investment or a dedicated scheme. Then there is also the other program which focus more into, if you want, provide the direct funding. And here I would like to stress that, I mean, you know very well of the Cohesion Policy Fund and the Regional Fund, but also in that regard, I mean, we have put a stronger accent in this financial framework on the need to use this fund to set up financial instrument. There is a easier provision for financial instrument because the reporting on the project is considered achieved once the instrument is being set up by difference, and all the safeguards are in place by difference of direct investments, so direct subsidies into renovation for a building, where all the elements will need to be reported. So to a certain extent, the project financial instrument is considered achieved once it is set up and endorsed. That is, I think, not all for sure, but something of what is available at EU level to support local authorities, local and regional authorities on this challenge.
Thank you. I think it gives hope that there are so many instruments, not all of them yet well known. So we will collect the links and we will follow up after the webinar to send you more information and the links to the more information. One final question, if you still have a minute. Do you foresee any new developments, any new changes in terms of maybe the targets or new incentives or support programs in the coming year, for example?
I mean, there has been a big development that, I mean, is coming now, and member states are starting to discuss it, which was related to the, in the framework of the recovery and resilience plans. Now they need to integrate the Repower EU chapter, and new grants and new funds have been dedicated to that, and member states are revising are asked to revise their recovery and resilience plans and to integrate this new chapter. So this is the first development that is happening now in the sense that in the next months. Then there is another development not related, if you want, to financing, but very important for the overall strategy, which is the update of the national energy and climate plans, where member states are asked to, and that will integrate the new energy efficiency and renewable targets, and member states are asked to provide a draft to the Commission by June 2023 and a final plan by June 2024. So in the next year and a half, this will be addressed, and the local and regional authorities should be involved, and there is a strong provision calling for their involvement into the preparation of these plans. And then the third one, probably, that I would recall here is that this was recently endorsed, is the Social Climate Fund, but that will be operational only in 2026, if I'm not wrong, to address specifically the need related to energy poverty and support, for instance, in building renovation for vulnerable households. But these, let's say, come in the next in the second half of the decade. But plans will be prepared by member state before that. So also to follow this development, I think it's very important for local actors as well. And now I think I need to leave, Silvia, and everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Pierluca.
And thank you for inviting me, and I wish you a very good webinar and successful overall discussion also in the follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we will keep you updated.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. So you see that there are quite a lot of interesting developments, and also the level of ambition has obviously risen over the last year, but also not only the last year, but because you know that Fit for 55 started before the war in Ukraine that impacted the energy crisis. So I will now talk you through the various options of gathering, attracting financing that are out there, and some of them are new. Some of them are not widely used across Europe yet, but there are a lot of examples that you can also learn from. And later on, I will tell you how you can learn about them. So let me share the screen. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat. And while it's loading, also a side comment that you will receive all the information. There will be a recording shared with you. You will receive all the information. There are a lot of links in the slides, and we will also send you the additional links to which you already have in the chat. Julia is, I think, is it Julia, our coordinator, who is posting some of the information already, but don't worry, we will let you know more. And also an important thing to remember is that under the PROPECT project, we are gathering feedback from public authorities, and we will invite Pierluca again and his colleagues to familiarize themselves with the feedback from cities, with public authorities, and hopefully it will be useful, and maybe will also help to develop more support schemes and more programs that would be useful to you. All right. So I think you can see it. I haven't introduced myself, so just a quick information that my name is Sylwia Słomiak and I work for Eurocities. Eurocities is part of a consortium that works on this project. I will tell you more about other partners because we have quite a strong network of organizations from across Europe. I will also introduce the team in a second, but first of all, I would like you to have a look at how many options you actually have. Right. As you can see, the list here, there are so-called innovative financing instruments, many options, and we call them innovative in our project. We call them innovative in our project because they are not widely used yet. They might not be innovative. Someone is taking control over my mic. It's not something that has come up in the recent months. It just means that for many public authorities, they might be quite new. That's why we call them innovative. On the list of those instruments, we have included citizen financing, which I will cover in a second. And under citizen financing, we have crowdfunding and cooperatives, which are not the same, but it involves residents into financing, co-financing public projects. We also have energy performance contracting, in short EPC, and you may know it as working with ESCO companies. There is also internal contracting available, green bonds, guarantee funds, soft loans and preferential loans, revolving funds, and widely known third-party financing. So I will now tell you a bit more about each of these instruments. We will not have time to discuss them in detail, but as you can see, we have prepared one-pagers with an introduction to what this particular instrument is, the basic information about how to set it up and who is involved in a given instrument, but also information about some examples that you can learn from. These ones you receive receive the PDFs from us, and you can find the PDFs on the website. These are linked with more information to certain case studies that you can see. So what are the cooperatives? It's worth also knowing that some of these may vary slightly in different countries, depending on national regulations and some national practices and how new they are or how well known they are. But the basic principle about cooperatives is involving citizens in co-financing a certain and co-owning a certain project installation. An example could be an installation of renewable energy sources, for example, photovoltaics, on a public building provided by a municipality or a city. And those who have joined the cooperative benefit from the profits that they get on the installation. It might be depending on the available policy schemes. It might be easier to set up or a little bit more difficult, but it definitely involves changing the culture and convincing residents that they can co-own some public projects. So they actually co-design what's happening in the region. Another example of citizens financing is crowdfunding. And crowdfunding, you may know it from various platforms where you can chip in to develop certain products, and then you get the products at a better rate. So this is something similar. A municipality, public authority, a city can start gathering funding for certain projects, for certain investments, and residents can chip in, they can pay certain amounts, and they will get something in return. For example, they might get, if they chip in to fund a thermomodernization of a swimming pool, for example, they might get reduced price tickets to that swimming pool. So it's in a way also another method of engaging residents in co-financing projects. In some countries, you might face some mental barriers because people might expect that all projects need to be fully financed or funded and organized and implemented by local authorities. So it might require first organizing awareness raising campaigns and really changing the mindset of the residents. And then showing examples of what has worked and why it might be a good idea. And energy performance contracting, so working with ESCOs. This is a very interesting instrument, and it's quite widely known now, or at least many public authorities have heard the name or have heard the term an ESCO. But for those of you who have not been familiar with this, ESCO is a short abbreviation of the name of an energy saving company, so a private partner in a given project. And when you implement a project in this model, you don't need to, as public authorities, you don't need to gather your capital, you don't need to look for money up front. You need to find a partner who will bring the money. So you do not need to look for subsidies, you do not need to mobilize your own budget, you need to carefully select a private partner. Which will bring the capital. So it is a form of PPP. It's usually described as a simplified form of PPP, where, again, depending on the national context, national regulations, selection of the private partner might be easier and quicker and without so many formalities as in standard large PPP projects. In many countries, it's still something new. So the energy regulation, for example, sometimes it's not fully compatible yet with this mode, but it is changing. We can see that it is developing across Europe. Why is it an interesting scheme? First of all, if you do not need to provide your budget upfront, you are not risking public funds. You have a partner who brings the money. Usually, they do not bring their own money. Usually, they need to get a loan from a bank, for example. So it's also in their interest that they get good conditions, that the bank estimates the risk of the project as low, and they can pay back the loan in time. Why does it secure your funds? You only pay if you receive what you have agreed and what you have in the contract. So if anything doesn't work, it's not satisfactory, you do not get energy savings from energy upgrade, for example, at the level that you expected, or the renewable energy installations do not work optimally, then you do not pay. So you do not risk the funds. It's in the interest of your private partner, the ESCO, to fix everything as soon as possible. So you are happy and you pay them so that they can pay off their credit they have, their loans they have taken from the bank. If I can just ask everyone to check that your mics are off. Thank you. How to set it up? The most important phase and the most tricky phase is to find a good partner, so the tender phase, and to negotiate the contract. In order to be able to do that, you need to fully understand the energy needs of the buildings, if it's the buildings that are part of the project, or for example, public lighting. You need to fully understand how much energy you use and who is using this energy, what are the real requirements and needs. For example, it might be that at the moment, the temperature in a given building is set to 24 degrees. And when you do a proper audit and when you check what's really going on, you might notice that most people using the building keep their window open. So if you identify such issues, you can better understand what are the actual energy needs and what can be your realistic energy savings and how much the investment should cost, what should be the scale of the investment. Worth remembering that the private partner can also benefit if there are some additional unforeseen savings. If, for example, a solar installation, a photovoltaic installation works so well that produces more energy, of course, it cannot be oversized, but there might be a limit that you set, and then you share the additional profit. So again, it's in their interest to make sure everything works very well. I have heard about some examples. I don't remember how many there were, but it shows the potential of the scheme. I have heard about some examples where, because of feed-in tariffs and the opportunity to make money on a PV installation, it was on a longer contract. For example, a contract would be up to around 10 years. For the private partner, it actually made sense to upgrade the installation when the technology was developing and the technology changes so quickly. So they upgraded the installation to benefit even more in the last, let's say, 4 years of the project. For the public partner, it meant that after the 4 years, when the contract ended and they took over the ownership of the project, they were left with a 4-year-old installation and not a 10-year-old installation. So there is always this possibility. And if you're thinking about the differences in cost, because of course a private partner has certain fees on top of the core cost of investment, and then you might think that subsidy is a better use of public money. Also think about how quickly you can obtain a subsidy, whether there is enough subsidies and whether they are appropriate. How long would you need to wait for a call? How long would you need to wait for results of the call? You also don't have any guarantee that you would get the funding. So if you are able to start the project earlier, you are able to start benefiting from the savings earlier, and that might cover the difference, the theoretical higher cost of a project implemented with a public partner. Third-party financing, here I will just mention it quickly. Of course, this is money coming from external partners such as banks or investors. So it's a broad term covering, referring to all means, financial means that are coming from external partners. And by the way, for those of you who might be a bit confused why I sometimes say funding, sometimes finance, funding refers to public funding, so subsidies, for example. Finance is the private finance means that you get through either investors, banks, etc., and financiers. That's why we say financiers. Green bonds. Green bonds, you probably are familiar with bonds. Green bond schemes can be set up on a city or regional level, also on national level. This would be more common. And they can be issued to gather capital for given projects. Not a small project, it is a scheme that might be a bit more difficult and complicated to set up, especially if you represent a smaller municipality or city. But this is something that's also available. There are quite many examples, especially on the national level, that you can learn from. Soft loans are loans that are of very low or no interest. So these are loans that really have this social and public benefit and approach. And basically, these are not commercial loans. They are this is a loan, you have to pay it back, but the main reason behind it is to allow more sustainable energy investments. And again, there is more information. If you have a look later on at those slides, you can look at the examples and case studies. That's why I am just skipping through it because we don't have that much time today. Guarantee funds are also funds that can be set up on different levels of public authorities. It might be on the national level. It can be set up by cities as well. There are some examples. And those are usually set up in cooperation with financial institutions. So it's a guarantee fund that reduces the risk for investors. In case the investor would not be interested in a given project because they would assess the risk high, here with a guarantee fund, they know that in case something goes wrong and the project doesn't deliver, they will be able to get their money back. So this is a way of attracting more investors who otherwise would might assess the risk of getting involved in certain projects as too high for them and therefore not attractive. Revolving funds. Revolving funds is a pool of money set up on a local or municipal or regional level, which is meant to be reinvested in projects of the same type. For example, there might be a revolving fund set up on a city level by a city. Where you get the initial money from may vary. It might be from your existing public budget, it might come from loans from banks or from investors. But basically, once you set it up, you invest it into projects, energy efficiency related projects which generate savings, and then you use those savings on more of such projects. So it's basically a secured pool of money that does not get transferred between different priorities and different departments of a given institution. And interacting. Interacting is involving interacting actually means internal contracting. So it's involving internal municipal, regional public authorities structured into financing and delivering, implementing a project. So there might be different ways of carrying out an interacting project. There might be various sources of the initial funds you get into the pool. But basically what it means is that you do not contract out certain activities, project delivery or monitoring outside to external contractors, but you contract it out internally to different departments of a given public institution. And now how to choose the right one, you might be thinking, especially if it's something quite new to you. I will show you some tools that we have prepared that will make it easier. We have prepared them under the PROPECT project, and you can use those. I would recommend that you check, when you look at the list of the different options, you check your national regulations and policy incentives. Policy incentives are all those schemes and opportunities that offer something to public authorities that makes a given instrument more competitive or more useful. A policy scheme might be, for example, feed-in tariffs, which then promotes renewable energy and, for example, photovoltaics. So it's good to check what's already possible. It's good to check if there have been similar projects already implemented in your country, and if not, why that might be a case. You can also always Google what's in the plans. You can check what is your national energy regulation, energy law, and what are the upcoming changes. Because like I mentioned, even if you do have in your country a scheme like EPC, it's maybe already reflected in your PPP, private-public partnership regulations, there might be some differences between countries of how it's handled. It's worth remembering that every country is a little bit different, and although the general objective would be the same, there might be different solutions offered in different countries. For example, a cap on the length of a contract. That's something we have seen. And then learn from case studies, because there are many examples all over Europe, and you don't need to start yourself without really knowing how to do it, how to go about it. You might then find it a bit risky. Sometimes I talk to local, or actually very often I talk to local authorities, and they say, this sounds promising, but we don't want to be the first one. So if we see a few more institutions that have already used it, especially in our country, that would give us more confidence that we could use it as well. And there are lots of examples all around Europe. In many countries, you can find matching regulations, matching local context, local and regional context. So it's really worth learning about it. And this was leading to a presentation about our project, PROPECT Plus, and what we can offer you, so that you can learn more about those instruments, and so that you don't need to reinvent the wheel and reinvent America, as we say in Poland. First of all, you can have a look at this lovely map, which shows how international a team we are, because PROPECT is PROPECT Plus. We are a continuation of a successful first edition. PROPECT Plus is delivered, coordinated jointly by a very strong consortium, international consortium of various organizations that have a lot of experience working with local authorities across Europe. I will not read all of them. I will just mention that ICP is the leader of the project, and we have Julia here, who is our coordinator. So we have knowledge hubs, we have networks of cities and local authorities across Europe, all together representing literally thousands of public authorities around Europe. We also have regional energy agencies who are our internal mentors under the project. So we can see that it really is a very international team. And because of that, we have quite a lot of understanding of the differences in different countries in Europe and what's going on across Europe. And logos are always nice to see, but you don't remember the logos. That's why we put together a compilation of our faces. So you know who you can actually work with and who to contact. If you know any of those people in the pictures, do get in touch, and we will be happy to tell you more about the project. on top, on the left, you can see Julia, who coordinates everything to make sure the project is as useful and effective as possible. And what do we cover? Basically everything related to sustainable energy. Those projects can cover public buildings, renovation of public buildings, or installation of renewable energy sources. It can cover private buildings. It can cover transport, for example, installation of introduction of electric vehicles, electric buses, but also electric cars charging stations, upgrade of public lightings, and projects that combine some or all of those components, as there always are those projects. And we cover all of the financing instruments that I mentioned at the beginning, although depending on what type of interest we have, what demand we have, it might be that we focus on some of them in a given learning cycle. We want to help 300 public authorities across Europe, so that's quite ambitious, and we are working hard to deliver that. And this would mean we will engage, and we have already to some extent engaged 500 individuals, people working for public authorities. And by public authorities, we also mean energy agencies owned by municipalities or cities or regions. And then we will do it through bringing together 64 learning groups and 200 mentors and mentees. So who can participate in the project? Basically everyone, but there are different ways you can join the project, and to a different extent you can be involved. If you represent a regional authority, local authorities, or a municipality or a city, or an energy agency, or another agency that focuses on energy, owned by the city or municipality, you can join as a fully fledged participant, meaning our mentor or mentee. Mentor, if you have interesting projects you have developed, carried out using those innovative financing instruments, and you would like to share your experience, promote your experience, and help others across Europe, then we invite you to join as a mentor. And mentees are those participants who would like to learn more, broaden your horizons, but we would prefer that you actually already work on a specific project and you are looking for solutions for a specific project or some projects, and we can help you prepare them and deliver them. We would love to see that our involvement has led to more projects. You can also join our community of practice, which I will also mention in a second. And this is also open to other organizations you can see on the left here. So basically everyone is invited to register for the community of practice, join our meetings, online meetings and webinars, and to benefit from the policy feedback that we are putting together and that we will be sharing with institutions such as DG Energy that Pierluca is working for. This is just a short and visual way to interest you in joining us, because you can go on study visits across Europe. You can see various projects, meet a lot of people, not only public authorities, but also their partners that worked on the projects they have developed. You have an opportunity to meet them online. You have then the opportunity to visit them in person for a 1.5 day study visit. Or if you are working on a very specific project and you would really like to focus on developing your project, then you can invite a mentor to your country and sit down with you and really focus on your needs. And then you don't travel, they travel to visit you. I will just quickly mention that you, as part of the learning experience, you will meet with the mentors and some mentees as well, your group, a few times, 3 times online, 2 times to get to know each other before you jointly organize a study visit. And then you meet on the study visit, then we meet again then you meet again on a kind of follow-up, because we want to see how useful it was and what you're going to do with what you have learned and how else we and the group would still support you. Even more than that, after you finish working with your group, you have an opportunity to also participate in additional master classes, additional workshops that will be organized in Brussels. And there you can go deeper into learning about a specific instrument. This we hope will attract those of you who are working on specific projects. Your projects are finance ready, basically, and more advanced, and then we can support you in this final stage of looking for or selecting the best financing method for a given project. Here's just a quick slide showing you our wonderful mentors. The ones on top are our core team that has worked with us from the beginning. They are part of our consortium. You will have an opportunity to meet them if you are matched with a specific person. We also have in every learning cycle additional mentors representing institutions, organizations from across Europe who want to join and show their experience. So this shows you the mentors we had in the first 2 rounds of our learning program. We have prepared a lot of materials, a lot of tools for you. And those tools include handbooks on how to implement projects using innovative financing instruments in those thematic focus areas that I mentioned before. They are available on our website. We will send you all the links later on, so don't worry about it now. You will get them soon. In the presentation, they are also linked, and you can download them from the website. Of course, it's all free. We have also prepared a database of replicable practices, so projects that we see have potential to be replicated, copied in other countries, and we invite you to have a look at those. Each of the projects is described in a PDF format. It's described, the aims and objectives are described, the results they managed to achieve, and there is usually also information about the website or a contact person that you can find, and you can, if it's a contact person or a website, you can check there more details and investigate it further. But that's not all. We also help you to choose the right instrument. We have prepared a document and a file where you answer certain questions, and it recommends some of the instruments. You also find a summary of different financial terms in case you are new to this, so you can check, have a look at that as well. For our participants, only for mentors, mentees, and for the participants, members of the community of practice, we have also prepared a tool known as Finance Readiness Check tool, where you can assess whether your project, you are on a stage that would already be attractive, for example, to investors, or there are still some areas that you should work on. You will get feedback, automatic feedback with recommendations. We also have the community of practice. I have a power shortage, so I hope I don't get kicked off. We don't have any electricity in the apartment for 2 hours. And we also have the community. If I do, I do. Sorry, I'm sorry, but I just got electricity back, and this is the right moment to plug in my laptop again. Saved by the bell. Community of practice. This is an opportunity to meet more organizations, more public organizations online at your own pace. You will get access to a collaboration space. You will be invited to online meetings in smaller groups just for the members of the community of practice. And through this, you will be able to learn more about the instruments. You will be able to meet more mentors, to mingle, to share information about your projects, to look for partners for certain projects if that would be useful for you, of course, focusing on innovative financing instruments. And also you will be able able to contribute to our policy feedback that we are gathering, because we want to send a signal also to the Commission and to other decision makers that financing instruments, innovative financing instruments are very important and attractive and have great potential. But in some countries, there might be countries or some regions, there might be some barriers that you are facing, and we want to make sure that those barriers are flagged up so there can be overcome. We do encourage you to participate in this, because the more voices we have, the more feedback we have, the more strength you will have showing that you still need some additional help. This is what the platform looks like. Once you register to the community of practice, you will automatically get access. And now I will in a second pass the floor or the mic on to my colleague Anke from Energy Cities, but just quickly mentioning that we have 4 learning cycles, so 4 opportunities to join the groups and to join study visits. At the moment, the second one is in progress, so the second group of our mentors and mentees are already working together. There will be 2 more, and a good information for you is that we are opening the application process for the next one today. So since today, you will be able to apply to join as a mentee. In case, for whatever reason, you cannot join us in this upcoming learning cycle, which the meetings will start in August or September, depending on the availability of everyone over the summer period. If you would not be able to join us now, there will be another opportunity, but just one more opportunity. So we invite you to contact us sooner than later. And now I will pass it on to Anke. We will have time for questions after Anke's presentation, so don't worry if you have any questions, we will come back to that later.
Okay, thank you, Sylvia, and hello to everybody. So my name is Anke. I work at Energy Cities and I'm part of the consortium in the PROPECT Plus project. I will share my screen with you, so hold on one second. I think it's already there now. Yes. So what I will present to you today is basically the practicalities, how you can join us as a mentee. So this is what you were waiting for, I guess, as well, to see how can I join, how can I apply to this 3rd learning cycle. So I will go through the application process. You will see who is eligible, how to fill in the application form, etc. And of course, some information about the call as such and the dates. Starting with the dates of the call, we have a call for mentees open from the 2nd of March, which is today. So once you're closing this webinar, you can go on our website and look at all the information that is online to apply for this call, and it will be open until the 14th of April this year. You will also have the opportunity, and we're not going to talk too much about it today, but basically we will also organize some parallel calls for mentees to join local groups. This is for people who would want to be matched within their country with other mentors and mentees, and to work in national language. And for this 3rd learning cycle, we will establish 3 local groups, 1 in Italy, 1 in Poland, and 1 in Ireland. So for these 3 countries, we have specific applications open. The one for Italy will have the same call dates from the 2nd March to 14th of April and is online. The ones for Poland and Ireland will come soon, so this will be confirmed on our website. So just stay tuned and have a look on our website once in a while. But basically it means that people who do not want to work in English or are not confident to work in English can join these local groups in these countries. However, applicants from Italy, Poland, or Ireland who wish to join this general call for mentees to be matched also with mentees and mentors from other countries are free, of course, to also apply for this general overall call that is open for everyone. As Sylvia mentioned already, we will have a 4th learning cycle in the PROPECT Plus project. So people who are not able to apply this time because it seems too short for them, there is another learning cycle planned early next year in 2024, dates to be confirmed, but this is at the moment the planning. So there is another opportunity to come back to us and apply at another time. In terms of who can apply, it's in principle, as we already mentioned, it's regional or local authorities, or they are energy and climate energies that are publicly owned, or other local or regional organizations. So it could be development agencies, energy cooperatives, municipal companies, etc., that are owned by regional or local authorities, basically. And it is the staff members of these regional or local authorities that can apply. We also allow external consultants to apply. However, then they need to explicitly work for a local or regional public authority in the eligible country. So you will have to have a working arrangement already and be supported and endorsed by this local and regional public authority. And this brings me to the point that it's in the orange box that all applicants need to provide a letter of support from the mayor or another political representative of your public authority that you will represent in Prospect Plus. So you will have to provide this letter and submit it with your application form. That is important. So especially if there are external consultants applying, they also need this letter from the respective local and regional authority that is applying. We have in Prospect Plus 44 eligible countries, so it's of course all the EU27 countries that are eligible to apply, plus the United Kingdom. As Prospect Plus is financed by Horizon 2020, UK is still eligible. And all the Horizon 2020 associated countries that are listed here. I'm not going to go through the list. You will get the presentation afterwards to have a closer look. But in total, we'll have 44 eligible countries, which is quite a lot and shows how, the diversity of countries and also projects that could come to us. How to apply? Very simple. You will go on our project website and there's a Get Involved page. The link is here, but also if you go on our website, you will find it easily. On this side, we have, again, mentioned all the call dates. We have also uploaded guidelines for applicants, so for you to go through and read through. So it's I'm just giving a summary of it right now, but if you want to have a second look and really be informed about all the conditions of the call in detail, then please have a look at these guidelines. And you will also, very important, have the link to the application form. So the application form for the general call that is open, but also to the local group, to the local groups. So this is where you find the information. In terms of the application form, so this is an online application form. You have the link on our website, as I just mentioned. Once you're going on this application form, it is like a survey that you will fill out online. You can, once you're in it, extract it as a PDF and then print it like that. The application form as such is rather straightforward and rather simple. It's not a huge document. It's really, it focuses on the main elements that we need to know to be able to match you with a mentor afterwards. So it's divided into 4 main sections, where you will first, of course, fill in the information about your organization you're representing, then about the applicant itself, so the staff member or the external consultant who is applying, including the contact details, but also your experience and your motivation, very important for the Prospect Plus, for this learning cycle, basically. You will then have a section where you indicate your interest in the learning opportunities. So what is your preferred innovative financing scheme that you're applying for? And I will show you this in the next slide. And once you have ticked this, you then have the opportunity to describe the local project you want to work on. And here you can provide 1 or 2. I will explain this in a second. But this part is very important as well, because you will have to describe, I mean, when you apply for this learning cycle, you will already have some projects in mind, what you could be working on in your city, in your region. So here's really the opportunity for you to describe in detail what you're working on, what you're envisaging, so that it gets rather concrete, and also that we know quite well with whom you could be matched afterwards as a mentor, with a mentor. When you go in the application form, so this is what I was talking about for the innovative financing schemes, this is what you can select. So the schemes have been just presented by Sylvia. And under each scheme you have it's written in brackets, read more. So it means once you click on it, you will be directed directly to our website with these background information on each financing scheme. So you can have a better look at them in detail. And you have the opportunity to tick 2 preferences. So you will have to tick 1 preference, that's mandatory. But you can also choose a second one if you wish to, so that this is only optional. That means that you could, if you are interested in 2 innovative financing schemes, you can take the 2 of them. And if you have also, this will also mean that you will then have to fill in 2 projects in mind. So if you are taking something on guarantee funds, you will have to describe a project you're currently working or envisaging, and you're envisaging in your community, in your municipality. You will have to explain it here. And then if you take a second one, like citizen financing, then you can indicate the second project in another field of the application form. This basically also increases a bit your chances to be matched, because we will of course match you with a mentor, but we'll only match with mentors if there's sufficient demand, and if also there's a good match, if it fits really, because we will have to look at various criteria to see that after all the learning exercise you will get with the mentor is also beneficial for you and is really of added value, and that you learn something. And to be able to really match this, we need to know, you need to indicate really what's your preference and what's your project you're working on. We will, once we have received your application form by the 14th of April, we will then of course select the applications according to certain criteria, which are mentioned here. It's not rocket science, it's quite, it's actually quite logic. I mean, we will look at the overall quality of the application, of course. Have you filled in the application form well and all fields? Is it in English, etc. We will look also what you have identified and described as challenges and learning needs. Are they clearly identified and described, so that we can understand what you are looking for? We will then also, and this is what I mentioned earlier, look at how you described your project you have in mind. So is it clearly identified and described? And does it help us to understand what you're working on, with whom you could be matched in the end? We need to know your motivation to acquire new knowledge from an experienced peer. So are you motivated to participate in this learning cycle? Do you have the capacity to participate, to use some of your days on Prospect Plus? And of course, we will look also on the ability to share the acquired knowledge with other colleagues in the applicant's organization. So you will have a section where you can describe how the knowledge that you are getting from Prospect Plus can be shared within your local authority, or within the region, or with other organizations that could learn and benefit from it, so that we can then also see if there is some kind of replication potential, or if it is really of added value for you and your organization. Then, when we have selected the application forms, you will be informed, but then we will have to do the matching. So that is quite a dynamic process, I would say, where we will have to check with whom you can be matched as a mentor, who is a good fit. Therefore, that is really crucial that you describe well your motivation, your needs and challenges, and your project that you have in mind. The mentors will then be selected according to the demand needs in the mentee application. So if I don't know, 80% of the applications ask for, we need a mentor in guarantee funds, then yeah, we will certainly look for mentors that have the experience to be matched in the field of guarantee funds. That was just an example, but we really need to, of course, then have a look who from in our pipeline as mentors, who is available and who could help you. We will do the matching mainly as of end of May until July. So basically it means that in July you will receive the information with whom you have been matched. And as it's summer, we will only start the learning cycle at the end of August 23. So the real work on exchanging with your mentors and being in the meetings and then traveling is then really happening as of end of August or early September even. This is more or less the timeline. In terms of criteria for the matching, we will, yeah, I mean, it's quite obvious. We will look at the project that you have described, but then also at the mentor's experience and to see if it fits thematically. If your interest also is fitting the financing scheme implemented by the mentor, so is there a good match? That's quite clear. Of course, mentor and mentees should also share common challenges, type of organization, population size. This all needs to fit. So that's why I'm saying the process is a little bit dynamic, and it could also be that in this process we would come back to you to ask some additional questions, because we really want to ensure that you have a good match in the end and that you really benefit from this exercise. So we will look into all these criteria, gender balance groups, etc., to make sure that once you're matched, you're really having a great experience and that you really learn from this exercise. That is pretty much it from my side. I was very short because I didn't want to bore you with too many details on the application form, etc. I think it's really worth looking at our website and the guidelines. It's worth opening the link on our website so you can see how the application form looks like. As I said, the call is open until the 14th of April, so it does give you a little bit of time to get familiar with the documents and the application form. It gives you time to test out a bit and fill in some parts already if you want, or to talk to your colleagues to fill in this application form. And it also gives you some time, of course, to get back to us in case you have questions. So you have all the contact details on our website. So feel free to contact us if you have more questions on this. Yes, and for the rest, I wish you good luck. And I really hope we will see some really wonderful applications. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Anka. There are already a few questions. So I don't think your presentations wasn't boring at all to our participants, because there are already some questions. The first question is about the eligibility to join the project, and for example, if there is any way that startups could join.
Yes.
Would you like to?
Yeah. There's a way of startups that could join? Is that what I understand?
Yes, there's a question whether startups could also join.
Well, as I said, it needs to be staff members of regional or local authorities or similar organizations. So I don't know, the startup, I assume, is not a regional or local authority. So I would say in this case, not, unless you act as an external consultant on behalf of a regional or local authority. But maybe it's a specific case and we can discuss it. But as such, I would say no, you need to be a staff member.
Maybe to come back to those not obvious cases, if you are a consultant, like Anke mentioned, if you only cooperate with a public authority, you don't work for a public authority permanently, it very much depends on whether you are endorsed by the mayor, because you still need to submit a letter of support from the mayor confirming that your participation will benefit this public authority, because the main aim is to benefit the city or region or municipality. So within their structure, they will have more capacity to implement projects. If you work with them on a continuous basis, if you work with them often, if you are currently working on the specific project they are looking for options for, then that would probably be justified, but you need to provide a letter of support from the mayor that would confirm it. I can see that Inga, did you want to ask something? No, it just popped up on my screen. Also on the eligibility, in case you are wondering who from your organization can apply, there is no limit as regards the level of seniority, for example. Who we would like to target are those people who are really involved in the project, right? They might be people involved in the financial part of projects. It might be those who work as general project coordinators. But if you work on energy-related projects in your cities and you are involved in choosing the financing instrument, or you can advise your colleagues on that, then you would very much qualify. You will describe your needs and your motivation to join in the application, which Anke already explained. So this would be the basis of assessing to what an extent you can benefit. Anke, there was also a question basically relating to how to choose the right instrument, because participants, applicants can choose two options. They can indicate two options, the first of most interest and the backup one, let's say. But what if they are not sure which would be the best choice for them?
Well, you could either first contact us and see if we can help you out in some regards. But if you're not sure, I would simply just take the one where you think is most relevant for you. It's also not. I mean, what we have done in the past, we had applications where we found the scheme did not really fit the project that they were describing. In this case, we did reach out to the applicants saying like, hey, listen, can you explain further? Maybe we misunderstood or you didn't choose the right scheme. And then in the application process, we would direct you to the right scheme. So it's not a disaster if you put the wrong innovative financing scheme. We can still correct it afterwards. But really important is that your motivation and your project is clear. This will also really help us to judge it and to help you afterwards.
Thank you. Blandine, would you like to jump in on that?
Yes, I would like to add that in the application form, you can find the link to a decision matrix tool that was developed in the previous edition of PROPECT and updated. And yes, it can be a good way to explore the possibilities based on your the reality in the ground on your project. And this tool enables you to see yes, which financing instruments could be the best according to the data you enter in the tool. So this is something you can use also. And the link, it's on the website, and the link to this tool is also directly in the application form, so you will see it.
And it's also in the presentation, so it's one of the screenshots I was showing. So first of all, have a look at that, answer a few questions, and then you might get some recommendation. Have a look also at best practices. That might take you more time, but if you're really confused, you're really not sure, you can have a look at the best practices and see which of those projects are similar to what you are planning, and then that might be also helpful. And have a look also at the slides which I presented today. They are also, you can also find them on the website. Again, we will send you the links with this information about each financing instrument. So that can also give you an idea. And ask around if you know some other public authorities in your country, you know that they have already used this instrument or they have come across some information, ask around, and you can choose like that as well. The description, the motivation you provide in the application form would be most important, because then, like Blandine and Anke mentioned, if we see that your justification, your needs do not seem to match with the instrument you have indicated, we will double check with you that you really are interested in that instrument or it was a bit of a mistake. Blandine, you wanted to add something?
Yes, just on top of that, about asking around, you can also take time, as the applications are open until mid-April, to also discuss within your services. Like, for instance, if you are more an energy or climate staff officer, and maybe it would be good to also talk to your financial officer and get their view on the instruments. This can be a good start also. Quite obvious. I'm sure that most of you are already thinking about that, but just wanted to highlight this.
And in case your financial colleagues, the treasurer, are afraid of new financing instruments, which sometimes happens, then we hope that after the learning process program, you will be able to convince them that these are less risky than they might think, and they might also participate in our community of practice. There was also a question if more than one person from a certain organization can join. So basically for the online, there can be one official mentee from a given organization. But if you would like to invite your colleagues to join the online meetings, they are very welcome. We are very happy if there is more interest. In terms of the study visit, we are able to reimburse the cost only for one person. If you would like to bring another person, and we've had some cases, and you are willing to cover the cost of the travel of this additional person, then there shouldn't be any problem. Of course, this would be case by case. In case the group is huge, then we might reconsider that. But in general, we would be very happy that as many of your colleagues, as many of your staff can benefit and learn. The more they learn, the easier it will be to speed up the process of implementing your projects. There was also a question about the local groups, and specifically a local group in Poland. The application process for the local groups in Poland will start next week, early next week. But what I would like to also maybe clarify to that person who asked is that if you come from Poland, it doesn't mean that you can apply only to the local group. You can apply to the main component of the international, join the international groups, be linked with international colleagues, and be in a group with mentees from different countries. But in case, for example, you do not speak English, or some of your colleagues who would like to join don't speak English, and otherwise you would not be able to learn from PROPECT, then we are also creating this opportunity to have a group of Polish, this time Polish and Italian mentees that will be meeting in their countries, also online, and then they will have a meeting in their country, and there might be either a mentor from their country, also depending on how much experience there is already in the country, and whether there are experienced institutions inside your country, or there will be an expert coming from abroad with whom you will work, and we are able to cover part or most, we think it will be enough of the interpretation, so you can communicate with the mentor in English using interpreter, but you will not be traveling abroad. Any other questions? We still have 12 minutes. We managed to be quicker this time.
Julia, here, there are some questions on the chat on the level of readiness of the projects, if there is any requirement for that, and if a project is needed at all.
Blandine, Anke, would you like to cover this, or shall I?
I can start, and you can add if you want. First of all, is the project needed at all? I think it's good to have one. Because even if it's not very mature, it's more like an idea or a concept, but I think it's good to have one so it gets more concrete and we can match you, because if you're just indicating the financing scheme, that's nice to know that you're interested in green bonds, but we need to match you with a mentor who has a very specific expertise. So to be able to judge this, I think it's good if you have an idea on a project that could be implemented under this innovative financing scheme. And the second part was about the maturity level. Well, I just said it indirectly. It can be in a rather early stage. I think it's not a bad sign. But you are asked questions as well in the application form about your readiness of your project, so that we can judge basically and see if there's a suitable mentor for you.
Yes. On top of that, I would add also that there are a series of questions in the application form so that we can evaluate the maturity of your project. Yes. And we take also this into consideration during the matching, meaning that as it was mentioned before, we have these different methodologies, study visits, peer mentoring, and for instance, projects with a high maturity level are more likely to be matched in a peer mentoring, so that it can really help you move your project forward more quickly. Yes, and of course, as Anke said, describing a project, even if it's still at a very early stage, is always useful in the application, because yes, concretely, it helps us match you with the best in the best group, with the best mentor. So the more information we get from you, the better. But applicants with projects only at an idea level are accepted. We don't reject applications that don't describe thoroughly, really ongoing projects. We accept also early stage ideas.
Basically, we understand that local authorities or public authorities, I keep saying local, but we also accept regional authorities and energy agencies. Basically, we assume that you have your targets, you have your climate energy action plans this way or another, so you know how much and what needs to be done. And even if you're currently not working on a specific project, you will very likely be working on many projects quite soon. So it would be, in case you are not working on a particular project right now, it would be great that you can mention that you have those targets, you have those objectives in your organization, in your region, in your city. You have not decided yet what you will focus on now, whether it will be transport or whether it will be renewables on public buildings, but you have to do all of this within the next few years. So you need to see what options there will be. There was also another question about how can an independent mobility expert apply. We've already mentioned this, referring to consultants. So if you do not work with specific public authorities at the moment or regularly, you would probably not be eligible, because we want to help cities, regions, municipalities, public institutions, so that they are more independent, they have more capacity within their structures. However, if you work with public authorities, often on certain projects right now, and they agree to endorse you, they agree to recommend you as their representative, and you submit the letter of support and describe this in the application, then there shouldn't be a problem. But we just want to make sure that we are training city, regional staff and not external private partners. The idea is to support public authorities in being less dependent on also external support when it's not necessary, right? So they can do as much as they can, as quickly as they can, and they are not limited by the lack of knowledge and experience. Right? Was there another one?
There are some questions, additional questions, Silvia. If you want, I can read them for you so that you can
Perfect, Julia. Or maybe you can answer as well, yeah.
Sure, but I didn't want to. So the first one is from Germany. It's Maren Kohl who's asking, and she's saying that she's working for a local environmental authority in a larger city in Germany. They have the idea to establish a foundation concept or another one to create a possibility to accept donations and heritage from private persons on a lawful legal way to use them for climate protection projects. Would this kind of project fit to the Prospect Plus requirements?
Who takes this? Anke? To me, first of all, first impression, it sounds a bit like crowdfunding or citizen finance. So I would say yes, but again, if we get more information about it in the application form, it would be easier to decide. But I
would agree. It's very specific, and I have not enough information to judge that here on the spot. But yeah, it could link to crowdfunding, but to be checked. I honestly can't say right now if it would fit. Maybe would need more information to really.
Yeah, maybe Maren, you can send us some more information bilaterally via email, and we can get back to you with a clearer answer. Then there is one question from Italy, from Comune di Goito. I'm working on a renewable energy community project already financed by a PPP model. For new members, we would tried both crowdfunding and ESCO funding, but I need more clearly efficiency of both financing models. Would this kind of project fit to the Prospect Plus requirements?
Yeah, I think so. That could fit.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, and then again from Italy, I think Paola is asking if we need to have a project to apply, but I think we already answered to that question. So at least an idea, just to repeat again, at least an idea of what you would like to do and of what scheme you would like to apply for. And I think that's it if I haven't missed any other
I
question.
just noticed there was another one on reimbursement rules. So just to clarify on that. So basically, the only costs connected with your participation relate to the study or mentoring visit, so basically to travel. And we are able to reimburse 500 up to 500 euros for your travel. You will need to pay upfront, and then we reimburse you once you finalize your learning experience. So basically a few weeks after you come back, because we want to ensure that you do come back to our last meeting and you do stay until the end and fulfill all the requirements. And then we try to be very quick and reimbursing you based on invoices. So you need to then present invoices for flights and hotels. And there are certain quite usual rules for EU-funded projects. You can find everything on the website. We will send a link specifically to the reimbursement and financial rules as well. It might happen that if you book your flight last moment, it might be more expensive, and then we would expect you to cover the difference. But if you book in advance and look for good options, good connections, and we try to schedule the study visits early enough, if you book early enough, the 500 euros should be enough, or you shouldn't be need to add much more. However, do think about it in case you need to have approval from your supervisors, from your mayor, right? Think about it that there might be a possibility that you would have to contribute something, so that you are not surprised last moment and then you say, actually I cannot go because we have to add 100 euros from our budget. So we would also ask you to check this with your supervisors in case you have supervisors when you apply.
Some more questions on.
Yeah, I can see another question in the chat. Actually, all questions just appeared right now on my screen. I didn't see them. I was not seeing them before, but I could see one from someone asking if Prospect Plus is a permanent initiative or if it will end at some point. And maybe Julia, you are the best.
Yeah, thank you, Blandine. I think I replied in the chat, but it will end at some point. It lasts for 2 months. So I think it's March 2025 or April 2025, if I remember correctly. And we are doing 4 calls of applications. So this is the 3rd one. There will be one additional one launched after this one finishes. So I would imagine in about 1 year time. And then that's it. But you never know, because this is a continuation of a project that was called Prospect. So of course, you never know. There is also another question on how many matchings do you expect to create after this call? And I would say as many as possible, because it means that we add value and that we actually do a service to cities and municipalities in Europe. So we expect, ideally, I think in the grant agreement, we expected to match more or less 50 mentees with a number of mentors. There is about, I think, 16 per round. But of course, we're flexible. So we will try to accommodate as many as possible, of course, with the limitation of the budget we have for reimbursement, because that is finite, is not infinite. And also, what is the degree of competition? Were there many applications not selected in the previous calls? Maybe that I leave to you, Blandine and Anke, since you were managing the previous calls and this one as well.
Yes, I don't have actually precise figures in mind. But so I cannot give you a percentage of rejected application. For sure, every time we have a few applications from non-eligible organizations or people. So yes, I would say that globally it's not so competitive. Until now, we managed to accept almost everyone, except, as I said, non-eligible or really applications that are totally that you cannot understand when you read them, or even though we always come back to people to check, to ask for further information and so on. So I would say it's not so competitive if you apply with a clear motivation, ideas of project or concrete projects going on. And of course, if we can find a mentor for you, you are most likely you will be selected and you will be able to join a learning group.
Altogether, like I mentioned at the very beginning, we have the opportunity to involve 200 participants, so that's quite a lot over the 4 learning cycles and 64 groups. Of course, that might change a little bit, but we want to we are aiming at 200. Yes, it's not like a Horizon Europe or 2020 application process. Of course, there is competition. We are not able to predict now what will be the competition right now, right? We hope there will be a lot of interest, but we are not able to predict how many applications we will receive. The most important thing, like Blandine mentioned, is try to come with a specific project. If it's not possible, explain why you're not coming with a specific project. Do justify your motivation. Show us that you will really benefit. Show us that it's not only your personal benefit, your personal learning, but it will really benefit your organization. It's great if you already think about sharing your knowledge from the project with your colleagues, with different departments. You can also indicate that in case, for example, you have contacts with other public authorities in your country and you would like to share the experience with them as well, well, that also shows us that there is a big potential that your participation will really trigger some results and help you implement the project. So I would say you do not invest much time in the application itself. If you are really working on your project, if you know the project of your region, then I would say it takes around half an hour, 45 minutes to write the application. Of course, if you know the topic, it's good to also check, do the background check, to choose the instrument right, and to talk to your colleagues as well to see what would be their interest as well. But you are not investing and risking too much of your time, so I would really encourage you to join us. In case you would not be matched this time, or maybe the interest would be so high this time, we will keep your application in mind for the next round. So we would come back to you also to encourage you to reapply. So it's definitely worth a try.
An additional question on the train. Sorry, Sylvia, I didn't want to. I didn't want to block you, but somebody's asking if train travels can be refunded, and the answer is, of course, yes. And we are actually very happy if you decide to travel by train, which is more sustainable for the environment. Just mind that, unfortunately, we do have a reimbursement cap. So sometimes it can happen because of things that we are not discussing today, that trains are more expensive than planes. So just mind the ceiling. We can reimburse maximum 500 euros for the 1.5 day trip. So that includes your accommodation and the train or the plane. So be mindful. The earlier you book, the higher the possibility you have of traveling by train, I guess. Then there is also another question on what if a twinning happens to be not satisfactory for one or both, mentee or mentor? Can we come back to you and search for solutions? I would say that yes, of course, you can come back to us and search for solutions. I think we have never had it. Am I wrong, Blandine? But we are available to support you. So even if, going back to the question before, I think that we all of us are really supportive of a more active participation of public authorities in the energy transition. So whatever we can do to accommodate your needs or to cater for your needs or to engage you, the more we can, I think that's how you should, you should always refer to us. Anke, if you want to add something.
Just wanted to add that per group, we also have a facilitator from our team. So if there's any issue or we see something is not working out, this facilitator, so one of us, will basically be there and react to this, and we find solutions, of course. But so far, I think generally people were satisfied and we didn't have major issues. But fair question, yes. Yeah, but we are there, as Julia was saying, to support.
And it also shows that the better you describe your situation and your needs in the application, the easier it will be for us to find you the proper mentor, right? So if you do spend some time investigating if a given topic is possible in your country, for example, or what kind of regulations there are, of course, well, we're not asking you to do a lot of research, but the more information you provide, the more you know already about what your needs are, exactly what you are expecting from the partner, from the mentor, the easier it will be for us to make sure that you are satisfied with who you're matched with. Right.
And, again, sorry, the last question was from Jean-Francois. If we are afraid to run out of mentors, and I would say that we have 5 wonderful mentors on board on the project, as Silvia said before. On top, we have some external mentors that are working with us that are either new or are working with us since some time. And also we have 3 large networks of, as Silvia presented, we have Eurocities, Energy Cities, and Federen. So we know many more possible and potential mentors that we will, in case, go look for if we, by any chance, have so many mentees that we can't cater for internally. We also do calls for mentors, which will be issued afterwards. So in the first 2 cycles, we did the call for mentors before and the call for mentees afterwards. But this time we really wanted to cater the needs you have as mentees. So that's why we're looking for your needs first. And then once we're mapping your needs, we will see what we can do with our in-house mentors, what we can do with the external mentors that are in our network, and we will also open a call for external mentors that are not yet in our collaborating with us. So no, we are not afraid of running out of mentors. And you can also apply as mentors in case you have experience in working in with some of these instruments.
Exactly, because we are still looking for more mentors, not because we are afraid of running out, but because we are looking for as many interesting experiences and case studies as possible. So if you would like to share your experience, or you know someone who you would recommend would be a good case study, do let us know. And something we didn't mention, we haven't mentioned today, is something we have called expression of interest. So this is kind of a simplified form of the application form. It doesn't replace the application form, but this means that if you would like to get in contact with us and already tell us about your project, your experience, you can do it even in between the calls for applications, and we invite you to do that. You would then still need to complement this information with all the information required in the application form, but to an extent they are similar, so you will not be doing the work twice. So especially if you know of some very interesting mentors projects that we should consider sharing this knowledge with our mentees, do let us know. You can submit this expression of interest even before mid-May, when we officially open the application. Right, so we are over the time, but it's a good sign that we had so many questions. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, Anke, Blandine, Julia, for your contributions, and everyone for your active participation. You will get the presentations and links inside the presentations. You will additionally get a summary of the links that would be valid. Check our website as well, go through the different sites we have and the different tools we have prepared. And I also encourage you to additionally register for the community of practice, which runs in parallel. It's not an application process, you just need to fill in the form and then you get access to some additional materials. If you have any other questions later on, please contact us by email. And if not, have a nice lunch. And thank you very much for today.
Thanks to you, Sylvia. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.